Hello, thanks for watching this video on double headlines. So today we're going to look at what this means, and then I'm also going to answer the question for the person that sent me this, the picture of their palm here. So this person asked me, I have a double headline on my right hand, what does this mean? So they don't have this double headline on their left hand, only on their right. I'm going to break down exactly everything I know about double headlines, and here it is in this video. So the first thing I just want to get across, I just want to bust some myths here around double headlines. It doesn't mean a split personality necessarily. It doesn't mean madness. It doesn't mean genius either necessarily. It doesn't mean any of these things necessarily. It does mean the ability to be able to switch from one way of thinking to another, and that does correspond with people who play roles. So Michael Jackson had a double headline, and there's no doubt that he was able to put on a mask in front of the world, and was a master at playing a certain role. The comedian and actress and writer Victoria Wood, who plays lots of different roles, obviously a very intelligent person as well, has a double headline. People with double headlines are very different people behind closed doors. They're very difficult people to work out and understand. They're quite challenging in understanding them. Unpredictable people. They're oddballs, generally speaking. They don't really fit into any sort of category. And this person here, it's important to look at the chirognomy here, the shape of the palm and the fingers, and then filter through the information of the palmar lines, as always. And what you're looking at here is someone who, a water hand with fire element. So that is someone who is very complex anyway. But everything else about their palm is very uniform. The fingers are generally very straight. I will get around to talking about those in a little bit when we talk about the actual person we're dealing with here. The lines are very straight. The headline is very long. The fingers in conjunction with that are relatively long. So this person is someone who's quite a slow processor, because they're taking on board a lot of information. They have the ability to soak up a lot of information, and they require a lot of proof and evidence before coming to a conclusion. It's likely this person is a scientist in some respect, or a strong academic, and this, I would have thought, is the reason for this headline with this particular person. I'm going to say is because they have had to step inside. They stepped inside an academic role. And this is who they reveal themselves as in that academic role. And if you notice, it's quite sort of thick, deep. They present themselves as quite a black and white, blunt person, very fact or fiction type person in that role. So someone with a double headline, as I've said there, it could be that someone has a very different environment in their home life to their work life, and the two environments are very challenging, and they have to step inside one mentality to the other to deal with both. And quite often that is the case, especially with someone with longish fingers. As I've said, the upper headline is who they reveal themselves to the outside world, and the lower is who they are to those only most closest to them. And as I've said, they're a complex character type. They are able to switch from task to task quickly while still maintaining strong concentration levels. There's a massive... the double headline indicates a potential for intellectual growth in fields that most people would struggle. It represents the ability to analyze information, problem solve, to learn as well. And that's certainly the case with this person here. You can see a lot of upward strokes on the Mercury amount here. And this is partly, again, why I believe this person is in the academic, is an academic. The rounded heel of the hand there suggests a strong, creative, imaginative thinker, coupled with this long headline and the long fingers as well. This is someone who's analytical and a strong planner as well. And I say that because the Saturn finger is very straight, it's very long. The headline is very straight. This was someone who would make an excellent tactician. So what else is there to say here on double headlines? Some palmists believe that a double headline is two minds in one body. But whatever you might think, is certainly an increased ability to gain information and to switch to switch from one way of thinking to another, to enable them to sort of problem solve. So this person has quite a long Jupiter finger here. It's longer than Apollo. It comes up, so here's Apollo. It certainly reaches halfway. So it reaches, this is the first phalange of Saturn, and Jupiter reaches just over halfway there. And that's how we determine what a long finger is. It's longer than Apollo, and it reaches halfway or further than the first phalange of Saturn. That's what we classify as a long Jupiter finger. Someone with a long Jupiter finger is potentially a strong leader. It's straight, it's uniform, it's methodical. This is someone who has the ability to become a leader in their workplace. And they also have a very short Mercury. And that is sort of contradictory almost, because they probably have a side to them that's sort of quite insecure, childlike, immature, and they don't reveal this side only to those closest to them. I'm putting a line on this headline, the lower headline there, because the lower headline is who they reveal themselves to their partners. So this person is certainly open-minded because of the large space between their heart and their headline. But this second headline, as I say, they reveal themselves as quite sort of blunt and black and white, and the space obviously between the second headline is not quite as great. And this is why I believe this is academic, because the more you know, the more close-minded you become. I'm not doing justice to it. There's an excellent saying out there that basically highlights that the more well-educated you are, the less open you are to newer ideas. And so this upper headline is, I believe, the need to become someone else in order to achieve academic success and acclaim. and it runs for about 30 years, maybe 25. Timing events in palmistry is tricky, and I'm just throwing it out there, I'm guesstimating. It ends fairly abruptly. It's quite an abrupt line altogether, and I think they present themselves as quite sort of abrupt and blunt in this area that they're studying or working in. So their peers, I would think, see them as quite a straight up, factual, no nonsense, black and white individual. There's certainly a strong decision maker, egotistical even. I think they have a strong connection with their father, and I say that because you see the left hand here, Jupiter in spirit, shall we say, leans towards Saturn, and they're very close together here. Jupiter again is quite thick, whereas Apollo is not. Jupiter is the father, Apollo is the mother. So I'm going to say that this person has a strong connection with their father, and probably takes after their father quite strongly as well. So whilst we're on the left hand here, let's just look at the differences. No double headline. You can see a slight line here pulling away from the lifeline. Let's just highlight that here. Moving towards the area of Mercury. And this shows someone who certainly wants to achieve in this area. And on the right you can see that they have, and this is the area of academia. So let's just summarize who this person is a little bit more. They're certainly resourceful, efficient, instinctive because the long palm and long fingers, logical, a strong communicator at work, but I am guessing they're going to struggle in relationships, and I think this person has perhaps sacrificed the achievements that they've made, sacrificed in relationships in order to have gotten where they have. I think they've made a great deal of effort to excel, to get where they are, and that's why you've got this line is just so thick here. It's they're burning the wick at both ends to get where they need to, and all of a sudden it sort of stops. And that's, I think, because this part of their life ran its course at this time, but this time hasn't yet happened. So what I'm trying to say is they're still burning the wick at both ends at the moment. I think they've gained actually quite a lot of notoriety in an academic field. They have, I feel, this rounded, as I've said, this rounded heel to the palm here, this very sort of uniform looking palm. Let me just get my pencil out here. So the rounded heel is just the sort of thing you see with scientists. It's overall, it's a very sort of straight, angular, I mean, let me show you an example of another scientist. Here we are. Here's Einstein. Just look at how the heel of his hand here and under Venus, it's all just so uniform. It's yes, it's rounded, but the overall shape is quite symmetrical. This is the hand of a very methodical thinker. The headline reaches deep into lunar. It forks at the end here, so it literally doubles at the end here as well. Their heart line is quite straight as well. This shows someone who's able to make decisions without being emotionally compromised. The Jupiter is relatively even with Apollo, which is one of the signs of fame. So I just wanted to, it's somewhat relevant because of the headline forks at the end here, and you could argue that it doubles at the end. But the reason why I wanted to make this comparison is because of the way the hand rounds off so evenly, both underneath Venus and at the heel of the palm here. And I think that's quite a common theme with scientists. And this person isn't not necessarily a scientist, but I do think they have made a name for themselves in an academic field of some sort. So, to summarize, I think this person, I would advise this person to take time to analyze their own thoughts and feelings, let people in, and share those thoughts and feelings with others. Take time to communicate your own thoughts and feelings. Put down analysing the outside world and the information in front of you, and do some introspection, some introspective analysis from time to time as well. So that about wraps up the double headline. It's someone who has an increased ability to gain information and problem solve, to put a different hat on, to respond to different situations. And sometimes people with double headlines have to do that because of two very opposing and challenging environments they find themselves in, either at work and home, or work in or an academic field, or just two very different environments that they have to both survive in. There are two thought processes at play. So it's an ability to compartmentalize and adapt to the needs of their lifestyle. It doesn't make someone a genius necessarily. It doesn't mean they have the potential to become mad or are mad or have split personalities or anything like that. So it's, as I say, top line is it represents who they are to the outside world, and the bottom line, the original headline, is who they are to themselves and those closest to them. So it's a duality to them within their sort of mental facets, if you see what I mean. Other people who have a double headline, as I've said, Victoria Wood, Michael Jackson. See if we can see it there. Can't really see it there, it's a rubbish picture. Here he is again. And there it is, you can see the double headline there. And he's clearly a fire hand, long palm, short fingers. Mick Jagger also has a double headline. The surrealist painter, Salvador Dali, had a double headline. I couldn't get any decent pictures on his palms. And then Cairo, the legendary palmist and occultist in the 19th century, also had a double headline.